Let's get to the Energy Secretary Rick Perry, as you know by now, going to leave his post by year end. The president confirming that news while talking to workers at a Louis Vuitton factory in Texas yesterday. The former Texas governor turned energy secretary has served in the post since the Trump presidency began. And he joins us this morning live from Texas. Mr. Secretary, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
A few days ago, you said not today, not tomorrow, not next month, but you didn't say not next year. So I guess technically you were accurate. Why now?
Yes, sir. I've been looking at this for some time. I don't think anybody's surprised that, I've got a rather intense love affair with this state, my wife, this little town of Round Top where we've chosen to live. So the lure became overwhelming for me to come back home and to spend time with the people that I really love. And with that said, there were some things, big things, that I wanted to get done as the Secretary of Energy. Got a great team over there with Dan Brouette as the number 2 and the folks that make up these national labs. For instance, getting LNG into the European theater, one of the most important projects I think that our country has. And I got tapped, being the Secretary of Energy, to lead that effort to make sure that European countries, Poland, for instance, Ukraine, which had lived under Soviet oppression before, and Soviet gas, or excuse me, Russian gas, was being used as a weapon against those countries. It had been cut off a number of times in Ukraine. So it made abundant good sense for us to be able to be in that market, to clearly be able to tell American companies, you can come here, you can work here. In Ukraine in particular, there was some powerful messages of you've got to have transparency, you've got to have rule of law, you've got to have the sanctity of contracts, you've got to end the corruption that we've seen there and we've heard about so many times. So those conversations were had over a long period of time with Ukraine, with Poroshenko, and then subsequently with the Zelensky administration. And we're successful in getting those done. The nuclear side of things, civil nuclear side of things, I'm leaving tomorrow for Brussels to go do a small modular reactor conference, the first of its kind, so America can come back and take the premier place as a developer of the technology and to win this nuclear industry back to America. The third thing, and this one's really important to me from a personal basis, I had great interaction with kids that had traumatic brain injury, concussions, post-traumatic stress, and standing up an office of artificial intelligence at the Department of Energy. I was able to get that finalized here within the last 45 days. So the timing was right for me. I've got these big things done. The agency's in great shape. It's going to continue to be focused on the areas that are important to America. So it was a right time for me to come back home.
You told Fox this morning it's not related to the House inquiry. You've also said you won't comply with the subpoena on advice of counsel. Are there any circumstances under which you would comply?
Well, I think you may be a little bit ahead of yourself there until our the advice of counsel comes out at today. I don't know what that answer is going to be actually. So let's just hold off on saying we are or we aren't going to address that issue until we get a final advice from our counsel.
Secretary Perry, Jim Cramer here. Good to see you. I've been following the nuclear industry for a long time, and I have a lot of utility execs on Mad Money. There isn't a soul that has said there will ever be a nuclear power plant built again in this country. We all know that it is a clean form of energy, but everyone says it is dead. What makes you think you can possibly revive it when the guys who would be building it they'd rather put up windmills, they would rather do solar, and nuclear's dead?
Yeah, look, I hate to correct you, but we're building a plant right now, Vogtle, down in Georgia, and these small modular reactors
what are the
have some
overruns
real...
on Vogtle? What are the overruns on Vogtle? What is... Come on,
that's not what you said. I mean, I don't want to argue with you here, but let's get straight here.
They can't
I think
Vogtle.
The idea that small modular reactors, settle down here, small modular reactors have the potential to be substantially more economically safer. And so, you sound like the conventional wisdom guys back 15 years ago that said peak oil. I hope you weren't one of those, were you?
No, come on, sir. I've been in favor of nuclear energy forever. I live next to a nuclear power plant in Sacramento.
With us.
I was like 5 feet away from it when I was living in my car, and it didn't affect me at all. Secretary Perry, really, I am so in favor of nuclear energy, but these guys are so negative.
I need to take you to the Small Modular Reactor Conference in Brussels. Come go with me and talk about it and be passionate about it. It is a potential for America. We can get there.
I hope so, because, boy, is it the cleanest form of energy. Yeah. You are dead right. I just wish
Indeed
these guys had more.
Indeed
I wish they believed in it more. And I think you're so right. It is the most sustainable form of energy.
Well, yeah, wind's pretty good. Your home state of Texas does pretty well with wind, too, doesn't it, Secretary Perry?
Well, it's one of the things. As a matter of fact, Texas, as a percentage, has more renewable energy than Europe as a whole. So, we're headed in the right direction. The president wants an all-of-the-above energy policy. That's the reason, he promotes all forms of energy and finding cleaner, more efficient ways to develop all of those. So, and he's a big proponent of us moving our nuclear side. He's not as big a fan of wind as I am.
What are you going to do when you step down? I would expect, we cover, obviously, as you well know, and you and I have talked through the years. We were down at Kyle Bass's ranch a number of times through the years. I mean, you know corporate America fairly well. You see yourself serving on some boards. Is that kind of what you may choose to do?
For the next, until the end of the year, let me put it that way. I don't know exactly when I'm going to step away from my job, but we're going to be, my wife and I will decide on what we want to do. I was reading my devotional this morning. It said, what's the next big thing for you in your life? What's the most important thing you're going to be or going to do? And I hope in front of me is the biggest thing that I'll ever do. It may be something in the charitable side. It may be a prison ministry somewhere. It may be an opportunity to work with people to bring power to the billion-plus people in the world that don't have electricity. I got a lot of opportunities. I'm a blessed man. I'm healthy. I got a fabulous wife to come home to. So my life's pretty good.
Mr. Secretary, we hope you'll come back often. It's good to see you. Congratulations on your run.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Rick Perry joining us from Texas today.